Hey, it's Katherine from Brandequip Designs, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about why it's really important to have a scheduler, and also talking about a couple of the big ones, um, Calendly and Acuity. So if you're in the midst of making a decision or need a scheduler, I can kind of tell you a little bit about which one I chose and why, so you can make a more informed decision on this fact. Now, as you know, I absolutely love systems. It's kind of like in my geek out moments. And so when I find tech that can really help with that, I'm like gung ho. Let's do this. Let's figure this out. So I've actually been using a scheduler for quite a while now. Once I was introduced to the concept, I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And then um, and then I started hearing some people say like, well, I wouldn't actually want to work with anyone unless they actually did have a scheduler. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. And I totally get it because the email back and forth about figuring out times and then the miscommunication of, time zone translations, like, oh my gosh, it's insane. Um, and sometimes that's happened to me still, even though I do use a scheduler. If we just like are talking and are scheduling a meeting, it's just like, okay, well, what is the time zone? And I've missed meetings before accidentally when we don't use a scheduler because we didn't account for the time zone correctly. And like I had gone through a time change and they hadn't, and so like the hours were like off, and I was like, oh my gosh. So it's really important to have a scheduler for your clients to be able to book meetings with you, to connect with you. I use it for both meetings with my clients and various meeting types, and then I also have some connection meetings with some business buddies or coffee chat and stuff like that. So um, I want to talk to you a little bit about why, or like, okay, so that's kind of why you should have a scheduler. But let's talk a bit about which one you should choose. So if you don't have a scheduler, I highly recommend you try it out. It's very handy. It's really easy, and it'll go ahead and like make the appointments on your calendar for you. And you can set up your calendar to send you notifications. You can have the software send you notifications all as well. Um, and so that's really it's all good. Like you can set it up how you want to and customize it how you want to, and it's really helpful. So I've been using Calendly up until about a week ago, and I want to tell you about why I'm switching to Acuity. So Calendly was great. Both of them are really great. At the time that I was signing up and trying to make the decision, honestly, I think they both had a free plan, and what ended up happening was Calendly offered more on their free plan than Acuity, and I was like, oh well, maybe I'll just go for the free after the pro trial has ended. So I went with Calendly. Um, Hindsight 2020, I never actually did go for using the free plan. I always just went for the pro because I wanted all of the features that it offered. But I was really struggling. Every time I create a new meeting in Calendly, you have to create the calendar for it, and that gets really old really fast. You also have to create the reminder emails, and if you so choose to have a reminder email, um, and you can set it to send reminders a few different times, but it sends the same email message, or at least I never figured out how to not get it to send the same email message, and that's really big for me because then I felt like I couldn't really actually have a couple of reminder emails. I just had to choose how long before the meeting I would send one. So I can't actually have one on Calendly that sends like, you have a meeting in 24 hours and we're meeting in an hour, here's the link. Whereas in Acuity, I can. Acuity lets you have up to 3 different reminder emails. I only use 2 at this point, at 24 hours or so beforehand, and then an hour or so beforehand, with the links and like as reminders, be like, by the way, we're meeting. Here's all the access details, um, and that's really handy. Another great thing is that with Acuity, the reason why I really like Acuity at this point is because it's just easier to set up on the back end, and it's more streamlined for your systems. So if you have multiple meeting types, you can only set like one thing of confirmation and reminder emails, and it applies to all of your meeting types. You have a master calendar, and then you can group certain meeting types together and create specifications off of that master calendar, but any change that you make to your master calendar will update in your specifications. So if you're changing when you end your working hours or when you end your call hours, on the master calendar, it will update that in all of the different sections that you made specifications for, whereas in Calendly you would have to go into each individual meeting type and double check and make sure, and that just gets old really fast. So in addition, like those are really the two main things that I really was like struggling with Calendly, was that every individual meeting type was its own meeting, and I had to set up the settings each and every time I set up a new meeting type. I also really like that Calendly allows you to group different types of meetings. So I have client type meetings and I have connection type meetings, whereas in Calendly I just have to remember which is which. And then let's see here. Okay, there's another big one is Zoom connection. A lot of people who do online meetings use Zoom. I do as well. It's free or paid video conferencing software. And as long as you have a paid account, you can set up a separate meeting ID with each new appointment. Calendly, you have to go through that connection with Zapier, whereas Acuity has that integration built in. So that's really helpful as well. Oh, and one more thing. Acuity lets me put on my brand colors. So any active link colors, those are in my brand color, and I don't think Calendly allows me to, or at least it didn't at the time that I set it up, and I didn't go back to look. So those are really my big reasons for switching. Like I said, the biggest one was the streamlining meeting setup. It's easy. You have meetings set up. They apply to the master calendar unless you want them to apply to a different calendar. And you don't have to worry about the email confirmations or reminders. Once you get them set up, it applies to all of them. And you got the brand colors, and you also have the Zoom integration, which I love using Zoom. So those were all really key factors for my decision to move from Calendly to Acuity. I will miss the Calendly Google Chrome extension. They created this in the past year where you could have an extension on your browser with just like all the different meeting types and a quick link copy. So I could grab the link that I wanted to, post it in a chat, post it in an email I was writing, and move on. Whereas with Acuity, I have to go in there and get it, or have already created a document that just kind of lives somewhere easy to hand with all the meeting links that I can just grab and copy and go. So I highly recommend you get a scheduler if you don't have one yet. And if you are in the process of looking or aren't completely satisfied with one you chose, maybe check out the other one. I hope this review is kind of helpful for you. I know it's kind of like off the cuff, but this is what's going on, and this is what I'm finding. So I hope it helps, and I will talk to you guys later. See you later.